G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. Just in case you're not familiar with where I am today, I'm on the banks of the Parramatta River. How peaceful, how beautiful is it? It's been a while since I've been down here, but it's a lovely part of the world, and believe it or not, it's just across the road from my local parish. A number of years ago, the parish, the Greek Orthodox parish that I go to in Parramatta, had some challenges, given that there was a number of developments going around, up and around where the original church was, and at the same time the Parramatta Workers Club was also up for sale. So the committee very cleverly were able to sell the existing church site to a developer, I think for about $14 or $15 million, and at the same time take a leap of faith and buy this massive, beautiful property on the banks of the Parramatta River for about the same amount of money, if not less, not knowing whether or not the council would give them a DA to approve the building of a church and for all the other projects that they have earmarked or they dream about doing at this location. But they bought, thankfully. It was a will of God. It was an absolute miracle because I lived it, I went through it, and I knew the stresses that the priest and the committee were going through. It was a very difficult decision to make, but they made a wonderful decision back then, and they bought this property, which was income producing from day one, which was another advantage. And they were able to then move the church from Hassel Street and use one of the halls in this existing building. And it's a massive, as you can see, it's a massive two-story building on a huge site which has car parking for well over 100 vehicles. So all of those challenges that we once faced were solved with one very clever and ambitious exchange during a time where there was economic uncertainty. Properties had stagnated, so the people who were trying to sell this site here were having troubles selling it for the price that their members needed. And as I said before, there was a developer who was very keen to buy the Parramatta Hassel Street site because he owned the site next door. So by combining both of the sites, he was able to increase the footprint of his investment and to gain the leverage and the multiplier effect of having a wider, deeper and a two-frontage site. So it worked for him and it worked for us. But it was only just the other day when I was having a casual conversation with one of the fellows on the committee. And I just asked him, because there's a lot of development. Parramatta has transformed. The number of cranes, the number of skyscrapers going up, and the amount of development is just absolutely phenomenal. I often wonder if my parents came back just for a day, they would be absolutely amazed at the changes that have happened here in Parramatta. So much so that there's a light rail coming past the front of the church, and as you can see, there are roadworks up there to facilitate the light rail, Parramatta light rail. The proximity of this site to the river, given that the patron saint of the church is St John the Baptist. So it's just supreme. It's just so beautiful to think that St John the Baptist Church is now on the banks of a river, not necessarily the Jordan, but it's the Parramatta River. But it's just the parallel is beautiful. And to also think that the value of this site now is worth, what do you think it's worth? Have a guess. 5 years ago, I think it was, we bought it for $15 million. And today, the site, given the economic expansion and the significance of Parramatta, the site now is estimated to be valued at well over $120 million. A tenfold, almost a tenfold, let's say an eightfold increase in the value. My parents would have been tickled pink to think that the financial support that they offered the church at Hassel Street. Years ago, Father Nicholas went around to all the parishioners of the church, and he asked for loans. He said, we need a loan for the church to do iconography, to build the church, to do this, to do that, to make changes and to invest in the church. And people invested in the church, offered money, and I do remember my parents, and in their memory, I just love this story. My parents offered money to Father Nicholas for the church, and then years later, Father Nicholas was speaking to my mother and father, and he said that they were going to pay back the loan that the church, that my parents and many others, I'm not saying just my parents, I'm saying many others, the church was prepared to pay back those loans to each of the parishioners, each of the businessmen and businesswomen and business families, as to thank them for the contribution. And of course, my parents, as well as most, if not all, of the other contributors, said that that loan can be transferred and changed into a donation. And to think that that original donation, regardless of how big or how small it was, the fact that we kept this church going over the many years, even though the size of the parish decreased because there was another church that was built in Blacktown, and my uncle George Gikas was a significant contributor to that church. There was other churches in Thornlea, and the population just grew and shifted and moved. But to think that if my parents were alive today, and if they knew that the value of this church had gone from whatever it was back then to well over $100 million, they would be so proud and so thankful of the committee and the organisers who were able to make the most of the opportunity when it presented itself. It was a once in a lifetime. As I said, I lived it and I know what I'm talking about. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity which was grabbed by both hands, 10 fingers and 2 arms, and hugged tightly and made the most of it. And thank you once again to Father Nicholas for his guidance and his hard work over the years, and all the committee members and all the parishioners over the years who have been part of this miracle, and also to Father Dimitris Kokinos, who is the new priest who presided over the negotiations who worked with the committee and with the Archdiocese to make this dream come true. So I wasn't going to talk about that today, believe it or not, because I've got some notes here. I was going to talk about something completely different. But I just got taken on a tangent and I've extended it to 10 minutes plus. And I'm thankful I did, because it's something that I always wanted to talk about, but never got the opportunity to. So once again, thank you once again for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's a special episode. It's one where I pour out my heart and am very, very thankful and grateful for what we have and what my children and grandchildren and other people's children and grandchildren will inherit. It was all based on the foresight of the first Greeks which came to Australia in the mid-50s. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that the people who came to Australia from Greece, who had nothing to start with, who came to a land where they were, I guess, not treated well in the beginning. They had to work, they had to fight, they had to gain the respect of the community. To be in a position now to have a number of church parishes throughout Australia, to have Greek Orthodox schools, and to have a foundation, to have nursing homes, to have other infrastructure that is going to help both the Greek Orthodox and other communities for now and well into the future. Fair enough, we had a few challenges with COVID-19, which I hope will get sorted out, because every nursing home in Victoria, throughout Australia, was put on notice with the challenges that this epidemic, this pandemic brought us. But like everything, we grow, we develop, we learn, and we get better and better at what we do. So from my perspective, I'm very, very happy that the Archdiocese of Australia, the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of Australia, is making some very, very tough, but some very, very good decisions that are going to impact the future. They have younger people who are just as committed as the older generations, who will do things the same ways where they work and different ways to improve wherever possible. So a lot of people, or some people, will probably get their noses out of joint, but I guess at the end of the day, the job of the church is to stay alive, is to flourish, to nourish its parishioners for thousands of years to come, till the second coming, to be bluntly honest. So we need investments, we need good investments, we need progress, and we need people, as I said before, to make tough decisions, which may not be popular decisions. But the important thing is that we're living those decisions, we're seeing the progress, we're seeing the results, we're seeing the fruits of those labours, and hopefully we will continue into years to come with the aid and the guidance of the Holy Spirit to continue to flourish and to provide a foundation for living a good life, the proper life, and to ensure that the future generations, the current generations, and the previous generations that have gone before us remain and are one with God and are one of the first to be resurrected at the second coming. And for those who have passed away, who have gone before us, that God, through His mercy, gifts them through His grace a foretaste of paradise everlasting, so that we can all be one from now and forever. Take care, Pedya, Yasas, and we'll chat again. Bye for now, and thank you for hearing me out on this very, very special and probably one of my best 5 a.m. clubs. Take care, Yasas.